One of the things that I've always minded is that when I first started farming here, there were lots of people working on the land before everything became really mechanised and got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it had ended up with only me and one other guy working on the farm. An aspect of that is that people talk of the old times and how people were happy working in the countryside, even though they had fairly modest lives. And that ability of the countryside to feed people's sort of souls was being wasted and lost. And what's been so wonderful is since we've grown the flowers and we now open the fields to the public, we seem to have tapped into this terrific thirst that people have for wanting to just come and stand and be in nature and feel the breeze and hear the birds and the wind and recharge some sort of deep emotional battery in themselves. Well, like a lot of farmers, I was constantly looking for ways to diversify, and so I always used to pick a bunch of flowers, hopefully being of a romantic frame of mind, for my wife, which I'd have on the dining room table. And then one rather drizzly Monday morning in late June, I'd been over to the village churchyard, which is where my forebears are buried, having farmed here for sort of over 2.5 centuries. And I came out through the lich gate onto the road and noticed subliminally on the ground a lot of dirty, wet paper confetti in the gutter. Wandered back into the house and into the dining room where this bunch of flowers was on the table that I'd picked. And the petals from the bunch of flowers had fallen onto the table. And I suddenly realised they were the same colour as the paper confetti in the gutter on the road. And I thought, what if I make confetti out of flower petals? I picked up a bunch of petals and ran out to the other guy who worked on the farm with me with this handful of petals and said, this is what we're going to do. And he thought, he's finally gone mad. But from that point on, slowly with a bit of persuasion, we all began to see the sense of it, and I began experimenting with different flowers, because a lot of flower petals, when you try and dry them, just go brown. And eventually sort of honed it down to the flower that now provides the main of our stock, which is the annual delphinium ajacis, which we grow in a variety of colours in order to provide bespoke mixes of petals for people's weddings. And we also grow cornflowers, whose petals have a very intense colour that you can mix with particularly a white cornflower to add a real zing to the confetti mixture. And then it was a matter of persuading people who were so used to hearing from venues that confetti is not allowed, that this product was completely natural, completely biodegradable, no difference to the grass and the leaves in the churchyard. It therefore was usable. And that's slowly happening. And we now provide it to people all over the world. I can remember from a little boy always asking my mother if I could have a flower bed to look after on my own, which I did, and I grew all sorts of flowers in it. But it was literally about 2 square yards. And now we grow 28 acres of flowers, which I estimate is probably between 30 and 40 million plants. So it's a real spectacle when it's out in flower. Particularly in the middle of the green countryside. You can walk down a green lane between the hedges and just turn a corner and look through a gate, and suddenly you're sort of blinded by the spectacle of this sort of riot of colours. I just feel incredibly lucky. I've lived here, I've known here all my life. My grandmother used to live here, and I've lived here since I was 21, which is a long time ago. I love looking after the countryside. And what's interesting about here, because the land, we've got beautiful Vale of Evesham market garden land, is that during the War Ag had sort of requisitioned most of the land to grow huge amounts of vegetables. And so every square inch mattered, which had meant that sort of the hedges were sort of reduced to almost non-existence, and there was no woodland. And so it's been my passion over the 45 years I've been farming here to repopulate the landscape. So when you look around now, you see nothing but trees and hedges and fields. The pastoral England that I think most of us sort of believe in and love Britain for. What's interesting about the flowers is that there seem to be different species of bees that like different flowers, and the ones that we find like the delphiniums are the bumblebees, and we get loads of them in the field. One of the most exciting things to do, which I love every year, and it thrills me and inspires me each year, is to get up very early in the morning at dawn and come down to the field and watch the sunrise over the flowers. And a couple of years ago I did it, and I was looking at, and it's all very still and quiet, and then suddenly in the middle of the field this fallow stag in full antlers jumped up and ran off, and it was almost sort of mythological. It was quite amazing. Just being sort of suffused in nature, not only surrounded by the normal countryside, but being surrounded by these flowers is somehow sort of quintessentially wonderful and captivating, and you just feel so much at one with nature when you're standing out here in the middle of the field. Absolutely love it.